So we're just going to start playing around with this resume and customizing it for our own use. And I'm going to show you kind of how it's all put together so that you'll understand how you can work with it to make it the way you want it to look. And I have these two resumes right here. And if you want the original copies, because you're going to get the changed copies by the time you download these, if you want the original copies of these, you'll notice if you go back in the lectures, and so I'm just going to highlight that right here. If you go back in the lectures, a little bit too far there, we are currently in whatever lecture. I think it's lecture number 72 in Udemy, right? Customizing your resume, lecture 72. But if you go back to lecture 71, the importance of a great resume, and my numbering is a little bit off here, but you'll be able to download the original copies. So in the previous lecture video, here are the original copies, and you could download those. And so you'll have the originals to start with. So let's start working with this stuff. The first thing you want to know is how do you come into the header and footer and customize that. And it's exactly the same way we've worked with headers and footers before. So there's a variety of ways that we could get into the header and footer. One way is just double click and bam, I'm already in there. Right? Another way would be to maybe go to view, because I want to view the header and footer, and I could see view, header, and footer. And then once again I come in there. And I also have all these different options up here for the header and the footer. But the main thing that you need to do when you come in here is, basically you could just change this so that it's your name, right, instead of my name. Or you could go out and get a job and earn me some money, right? And maybe you don't want to have curriculum vitae. I just put that in there because it's academia. And whatever, academia is a little bit wordy, but you can just put your name in there. If you wanted to add a little bit something else, feel free. But again, simplicity is key. And I actually think that looks pretty good. Your name, and then to balance this maybe, and again, this is sort of just a judgment call, right? But I'm going to Command Z on that. But to balance this, maybe I'll drop my email down one more line, or I'll play with that. It actually looks pretty good that way. So that's how you come into that. That's pretty straightforward. The next thing, which is really important to know, is here you can see a little four-way thing right there. And you just need to be really careful when you're clicking around in here, because you could accidentally click and, wow, I just moved all that, and that's really bad. Well, when we do something really bad, we don't have to freak out. We could just hit this undo, and it kind of comes back. But that little four-way arrow tells me this is a table. And when I click in here, I actually even, if I click down here, versus up here, notice what's happening up here in my ribbon bar. I click down here, nothing. I click up here, something. And so that's just something to look out for when you are clicking on different things in a Word document. Is hey, am I getting any extra ribbons? And yeah, actually you did. You got this ribbon. And when you go to table layout, you could click grid lines. And now I see all of the grid lines for all of the tables in this document. Right? So if I scroll through the document, I'll see there's a variety of places with tables. Here are some more tables. And I've used tables to sort of format the layout of how different things work. And so being able to see your grid lines is really helpful when you're trying to get all the data in there. And then when you're done, it's all formatted the way you want, you drop those grid lines out so that your resume isn't quite as cluttered, or your document's not quite as cluttered. So I have those grid lines right there, and I could come in here and I could start to work with them. And notice that the grid lines right here, right, I get that little left-right arrow right there, and I get it right here. These guys are lined up because I want these numbers to be lined up. And you can see right there, yeah, that's all lined up. That's looking good. And so that symmetry is really important in design. And so as you change things, you might need to adjust fonts and slightly adjust these lines. And notice if I just adjusted it for that table, this one didn't adjust, but oh, if I do this, I kind of went to 2 lines here. So if I bring that back over 1 notch, right, okay, well then let me bring this one back over 1 notch so that that text is aligned. And so just to show you how this creates a little discord if things are out of line, you can now kind of take a look at that, and we see, oh yeah, it's not quite as harmonious. There's some discord there that our eye is sort of glitching on. But when we lined it up, much more harmonious. And the eye really likes patterns. So patterns are really important in design. And that's what a large part of this is about. But the technical skill you need for adjusting the patterns is coming in and seeing the grid lines, the grid line layouts, and using tables to do that. So I'm going to leave you with that on this video. And we're going to do this in a series of videos, so not any one of the... So these videos, each of them is, instead of having one big long video, we got a series of shorter ones. And so this is the takeaway from this main one, is knowing how to work with a header and footer, which we've already seen, and then being able to use tables for layouts, and then going in and seeing the grid lines right here, and then of course keeping nice symmetry between everything, and then turning the grid lines off when we're done. So those are the main takeaways for this video. In the next video, we'll talk about a few more of the things you can adjust on the resume.